Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Paranormal Concept. I'm your host, Paul Rook, and I just want to apologise for the little bit of a late start. We've had some technical issues, but they are now sorted. I want to introduce to you my co-host for tonight, Kerry Greenaway.
Good evening, Paul. How are you?
Yeah, I'd be perfect if the studio worked.
Oh, tech difficulties. It's a nightmare sometimes, isn't it?
It is, and it's got rid of all my jingles, so I've got no jingles for tonight either.
We'll have to sing them.
No Harry. Okay, you can do the Harry Price one. That's fine.
Oh, maybe not.
I'll let you sing that one. Okay, so how have you been for this last week?
Not too bad, thank you. Busy girl, catching up.
Have you recovered from your holiday?
Just about, yeah. I've just about caught up with myself, and I'm gearing up for a big market that I've got going live on Saturday at Spirit and Soul Island. Little plug there.
Yeah, plugs.
So I'm doing a lot of making at the moment and running around and sorting my crystal room out and all that sort of thing. So yeah, Good. If you want to grab yourself a bargain or a handcrafted piece,
and make sure you take those crystal wands.
Of course I will.
Yeah. Sell loads of them, especially the ones with the batteries.
That's a different business. Anyway, let's moving on swiftly.
Yes, tonight we are talking about paranormal investigation techniques with Graham Smith. Hello, Graham.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, thank you.
Good. Have you been up to much lately? Any investigating?
To be honest with you, not a great deal, I must say. Most of my time is just spent researching various theories and technical jargon and all this. Yeah, that's really what I've been doing so far.
Okay, fantastic. So what we'll do, we'll just discuss for a minute what got you into the paranormal right at the beginning.
Well, what really got me into the paranormal was, I've kind of been interested in the paranormal ever since I was a child. And I think the earliest part I can remember was when I was probably about 10, 11. I used to watch a program called Strange But True.
Okay.
And they played the episode with regards to around the Enfield poltergeist case. And that program completely freaked me out. And probably struggled to sleep for about a month afterwards. But I mean, that show kind of, fascinated me anyway.
Yeah.
So from that point, I always had a sort of interest in the paranormal. So I read a couple of books on ghosts, throughout my sort of teenage years. Probably then watched a bit of Most Haunted when that sort of came on TV. But I'd say what really got me into the industry was when I started getting into watching ghost hunters, taps, and I just found that very fascinating. I liked their approach. I liked all the equipment they used, and and I liked the process that they followed. So I think around 2010, I decided I'd buy myself some bits of equipment. So I purchased a few bits online. Got a few friends together one evening, and we went to a haunted location for a couple of hours and just tried the bits of equipment out and kind of enjoyed doing that. So I wanted to do it more often. So me and my friend, we decided that we might start up running in our own sort of part-time events business. So we run a little trial one, had a couple of friends get together, managed to get into a location for free, luckily, and from there, that was it. That really kick-started my paranormal journey. So I've probably run events for about a year, maybe 18 months, but they weren't very successful, if I must say. And also as well, it didn't really fuel my passion for the paranormal. It's not fair, when other people are benefiting from your investment in equipment rather than yourself.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, I really want to do it myself, and find out, get more evidence because you're watching other people do it, and you think, oh, I really want to just, work on it myself and, get the EVPs, witness things and, communicate with things.
Absolutely.
So I think I got to the point sort of around 2012 where I decided, hang on, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to investigate for myself. So I stepped away from it, and that's when I decided to set up my own little society, which is called, or was called, RSVP UK, which stands for Research Society to Verify the Paranormal United Kingdom. So I set that up, and I got a few people together, one being my best friend, who is a graphic designer by trade, so he was very good when it came to sort of advertising the society and promoting, what we were doing. So we had a team of 4 people, and because when I was investigating before, there was never any real structure to our investigations, and I felt that if I was going to do it, run a society, I needed to have a better structure, and also as well, kind of be able to kind of reflect on how we did things. And I didn't feel that how I was currently doing it at the time, I was able to reflect appropriately. So that's when I decided that I build my own sort of case file document. So I built this document which kind of outlined the sort of early stages with the researching and then planning and then the investigating and then the reviewing. And it was originally, this case file was originally just set up just to be completed, written on, during an investigation, I must say. It wasn't meant to be very taxing and with time, etc. But so I think when we first started, we managed to investigate a friend's home. So I tested out the document then, and it was all right. It went fine, and I managed to complete the case file in about an hour from start to finish. So then it came to actually going out and finding other locations, and I sent out God knows how many emails to various different locations in the area. And fortunate enough, one of the locations was actually one of the ones I really wanted to get into for a long, long time. Was this like a local community theatre called the Mad Cat Theatre, which is probably about a 5-minute drive from where I live. And the managing director there, he seemed very keen, but wanted to discuss, more about it. So I arranged to meet him, and so we was having a chat. He was a bit skeptical about the idea and really didn't understand what we were doing. So what I said to him was, I said, look, what I can do for you is I can put a plan together and show you exactly what we're going to do, how we do it. So you are, so you're completely aware of what we're going to do. So there's no hidden agendas, and, you can feel comfortable with what we're going to do and how we conduct ourselves. So he agreed on that basis. So where this document I created was just jot down little notes, I decided that because I gained his trust by promoting the fact that I do this, I thought I better do the case file properly. So I really went to town and typed up, a really sort of detailed sort of plan of action of how we're going to do things from the information that was given to us and the research. And so I presented it to him, and he was really impressed by it, to the point that he had no hesitations in letting us come in to do an investigation. So we got in. I think we covered the location as well as we could have done on the day. And when we reviewed the investigation, I completed the case file and obviously presented the results of it. And what I think he really liked was the fact that I hadn't just gone in and just said, look, this is what we got, showed him a few EVPs and video clips, etc. He could actually, he was actually presented with, something physical, like a document that documented everything from start to finish, and that was his. And and I said to him, look, this is yours. This is, it's not ours. This is yours. You keep it. You can refer back to it. You can even show other people it. This is your information. This is your case file. And from that point, he was inviting me back time and time again to do various different bits and pieces. So I kind of felt, well, actually, there's something to this case file. it really has some clout to it. It really, there's some benefits for using it. So then we decided, because we were kind of looking to investigate other locations, whether it be sort of commercial buildings or people's residence. So we'd have people approach us that would say, we want, some stuff's going on. We need you to come and have a look and stuff. So once again, the case file was a good tool to kind of let them get their confidence and make them feel confident that we're going to come in and do a professional job. And then it just moved on from that. So I would say that the earlier part of my journey in the paranormal has sort of stemmed from that case file, and that's why I've kind of progressed on to kind of promoting the fact to other groups and investigators to spend more time actually documenting their investigations from that point, because I've seen the benefit from my side of things using it.
Are you going to put together some sort of database for if other teams can use your method? Are you going to put together some sort of database so they can upload the information to the central point?
Good point. I mean, I've considered doing that, but I haven't really had much time to think about how I'll do it. But me and Ashley, who you had on last week, Ashley Nib, we work quite closely together on a variety of things, and obviously Ashley is also another person that is very keen on using the case files and creating them and building that sort of process. And so we kind of sort of collaborate on what information we would look to collate and things. And I think Ashley's kind of put something together which relates to that, but that's for him to talk about, not myself. But there's I forget the name of it, the name of the guy. I was speaking to someone about 6 months ago. I think he's from the US, and he does something similar. I think he has like a database for paranormal investigations, and I showed him, my format, and basically said that was quite similar to what they used already, but was able to sort of use a certain element of what I was doing that he wasn't doing, and felt that he could introduce that to his case file. So I felt, sort of quite proud of the fact that there was elements of mine that he was happy to use and felt would be useful.
Absolutely. I did say to Ashley as well last week that because I run a Trident paranormal company, and it's got 4 teams in, so we stretch like the whole of the south of England at the moment. If he was to bring out those books of documents that we could use and upload, I'd have no issues with sharing it amongst Trident and getting as much information as we could from what we get, and it'll improve your database.
Absolutely. And I think because just building on the story, just to kind of promote the fact and what it does, what it's done for me and how it's developed me, is so I've been very fortunate to be regularly invited to another location that it's actually holds a place in my heart, which I really, at the moment, I don't get to investigate because the person who I had the connection with no longer works there. But there's a location called Bradwell Abbey, which is in the Milton Keynes area, and it's a lovely place, and it was, I think, where it was the location where I'd done my first sort of real investigation. So I've been fortunate to do it several times throughout the years. And once again, there was a time where the director, this is the person who I formed a friendship with, a few groups a few years ago kind of let him down, to the point that he decided not to let people do any more in paranormal investigations, especially in the main building where the activity occurs. And I felt a bit hard done by because of that fact, because I'm quite a reliable person, and I felt that other people have upset him to the point where I can't access the building.
Yeah.
And I felt hard done by because of that factor. So I got to a point where I wanted to get back in there. So I kept contacting him, and eventually he agreed to meet up with me. So once again, me and my friend, we went down and met with him, and we took all these different case files, and we said, look, this is what we do now. This is how we work. This is what we can do for you. I said, I guarantee. I said, I know the location fairly well already, so I will put together a really detailed, thorough investigation plan and conduct a thorough investigation. I'll report back to you on in this many. I said I can get it all completed in less than a month, and he agreed to let us in on that basis.
Yeah.
So building on from that. So we got into the location and we started conducting our investigation, and so this is where it kind of moves on to this is where my journey moved into a different sort of pathway. So me and one of our investigators, we were out on the grounds out in the Abbey, and what runs parallel is like a train line that goes all the way into London. So you've got the overhead cables running parallel to the grounds, and we were kind of sort of scanning around with one of the gauge meters, and all of a sudden, yeah.
No, carry on. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All of a sudden, we got this really high spike. And we couldn't understand why, because when I'd been out there previously, I've never had any sort of interference on the devices. So we found that interesting. But then what happened was, 30 seconds later, a train would pass by. So what we did, after a while, after several trains going by, we started to notice that pattern.
Yeah.
That every 30 seconds, we were getting these high readings, and then the train would pass. So eventually, after the investigation, when we looked into it, we identified that what happens is the lines power up just before they're about to hit that section, and that's why we were getting such a high reading, because it's getting ready for the train to come into that mile section.
Yeah,
and I found that interesting because generally, when the activity has been witnessed, is during the day and sort of the earlier parts of the evening and very early morning. Now, this is during periods where the traffic on the railway lines is, is highest. So I kind of thought, well, maybe there's a connection here, because when I from the other case files that we had done, I started to notice another pattern, that when activity was occurring, it was occurring at times when trains were passing by. So I would say that the traffic on the railway lines would start to sort of quieten down around 1 a.m. Sorry, and then that's generally when you found that the activity started to cease.
Yeah,
and then it would be quiet. And I felt that was quite an interesting point to kind of pick up on, but at that time there was no scope to kind of investigate that further. So when I presented the case to him, I said to the director that I've noticed this pattern and I want to investigate it more. So fortunately at the time I had a friend who was joining us on the investigations, who was a software programmer, and also he could build he was very good with electronics. So I spoke to him. I said, look, I want to build a data logger that can measure X, Y, Z consistently throughout the investigation, because I'm starting to notice these patterns are occurring, but I need to thoroughly document them. So he said, don't worry, I can build this for you. So he came back to me within a couple of days, had this spec of what he needed, and how long it would take him to build and program, so and the cost as well. And it was quite reasonable. So I said to him to go ahead and build it. So he built our very own customized data logger. So basically, what it consists of, it monitors temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, magnetic field, and electromagnetic field, and it's quite a sort of sophisticated little unit actually. So how it was designed was to be wireless. So basically, we could situate it anywhere as long as we had a wireless network, and we felt that we could position it in any part of the building. So what we did is we built this prototype, and we started to test it at Bradwell Abbey, and so that was for that purpose, to see and try and identify whether or not the readings we were getting out in the grounds, that it was the effects of what was occurring there were if they were able to penetrate the building and have an effect on the building, and what activity occurred there and correlate the patterns. And also what we integrated into this data logger as well was the fact that it had like a note-taking function. So how it worked is we had a program that was on our mobile phones. So basically, we could walk around with our mobile phones connected to this network that was obviously where the data logger was going, and we could monitor this data logger throughout an entire investigation, and it would document. I think it would take readings every like 10 seconds of the environment, and we could watch it on this mobile phone app. But also as well, so for example, if say we had a personal experience, what we could do, we could use the phone to make a note, and what it does, it puts it on the timeline of where a particular reading would have been during that time.
Yeah.
So, and you can see now where, with regards to, we noticed these patterns of circumstances. This was designed in order to kind of gather environmental data that supported these patterns of circumstances. And like I said, and just going back to the case files, this is where the case file stepped up, into a different ball game altogether, because we was able to now sort of integrate that into the plans. But as all things in the paranormal, things don't always work out how you expect them to, and the patterns that I originally designed the data logger for, weren't occurring. But other things did occur with the device. So about a year later, we were at the same location, and we had the data logger running, and we used to run these little fundraiser events to kind of generate some money to keep the society going. So we did one over Halloween, and on this particular night, it was a fairly active night. Though I didn't personally witness anything myself, several people that were on the investigation did, and they heard disembodied voices. So we had audio players running digital recorders running at the time. So at one particular vigil, several people heard this disembodied voice. So at break time, I got the recorder and I plugged it into the laptop, and we played it on the speaker system, and it was right. We had caught these disembodied voices on audio very clearly as well. And we found that, so obviously that got the excitement levels up for the rest of the evening. But a couple of days later, when we went over the data from the data logger, we noticed that there were some really extremely abnormal readings when it came to the magnetic field, and the field fluctuated. It was going from, say, sort of 100 milligauss to like minus 100 milligauss, which was very, very, very abnormal. And that was happening over an hour period where we was witnessing the activity.
Interesting.
And we were completely taken back by that. And you can, and the thing about it, obviously, when with the data logger, you can collate the data in various ways. You can collate it in like a sort of Excel spreadsheet, but you have to kind of really scroll through all the data, or you can do it where you can get a quick visual perspective and have it on graph form. So we went for the graph form first of all, and obviously you can see how it fluctuates over that period of time. So what you see is for so many hours, like a steady sort of incline. then it fluctuates, like crazy. But then after an hour, it then regulates itself back out again and it's consistent again. What we did was we obviously used the note-taking function at the time, so they're all in the timeline of that event. So that we kind of then started to think that maybe it was, we needed to monitor the magnetic field more than anything else. So that started to become the main focus of our work, really, around that.
So have you just got to the prototype stage with that device, or have you actually, developed the whole thing now?
No, well, yeah. I mean, it's still just a prototype, I'm afraid. The friend of mine who was joining us on the investigations, his other commitments in other areas kind of took over the work he was doing with us on the paranormal side. So unfortunately, we've not been able to kind of build on that. But I mean, once again, that's something that I'm looking to pick up myself. I've purchased my own sort of bits and pieces that I want to build another prototype data logger for another purpose. So I'm kind of in the process of like researching, like learning how to do the coding and obviously how to build the device itself. So that's one little project that I'm kind of sort of working on at the moment. So because I can't, I don't want to rely on someone else to have the time in order to build it. Because I kind of want to get going with what I'm doing, but at the moment I'm having to put that on the back burner because I need to kind of understand the science more before I get involved. I start to produce it because I kind of really need to understand, what it is I'm measuring and whether or not the readings I'm getting are correct, or if there's other factors that come into play with it. Because when you read into these things, you find out that it's not as simple as just setting something up, putting it on the side and letting it start collecting the data, because there's other contributing factors that can affect it, and you need to be able to identify what they are.
Absolutely. I mean, in my line of work, I deal with a lot of ECGs.
Okay.
And you got to be able to know what all those little points mean.
Exactly.
Otherwise, if you don't, it's just a bunch of squiggly lines. It's
but that's it. Yeah.
Exactly, and you just got to learn to read it properly. So yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from with that. I just want to bring Kerry Greenaway into the conversation now because she's kept quiet, surprisingly.
I'm sitting thinking, oh my god,
what's going on in the chat room? Because I'm sure you've been monitoring that.
We have Carl and Ashley in the chat room, and Lindsay. Good evening, Lindsay, and we have Richard as well. Now they're doing a little collaboration. They're talking about teaming up with you, Graham, to look into all of this sort of stuff and a connection between sound waves and light waves. So, add ECGs. That could come in useful too, as she said. So it looks like we could be getting a little tech team, a completely different tech team going on to do with this project. Now, Graham, I know you've been putting out a call on your Facebook page recently for iPhones and something else, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that to do with this project?
Yes, it is. Yeah. There's a particular sensor on there that I'm kind of interested, and there's an app on there that I'm kind of sort of experimenting with at the moment, in order to kind of test a theory that I've kind of got really into of recent. So it's once again, it's it's for me to try and understand, because I have an idea of what I'm looking for, but however, I'm not completely understanding the entire science behind it. So I don't want to get carried away with something I don't really know what exactly I'm doing with it. So that's why I'm having to I learn and understand how it works, and how exactly what I'm looking for. So when I come to work on this experiment, I'm coming in with a clear mind and an agenda for what it is I'm actually looking for. Because like Paul's saying, just because it's a couple of squiggly lines, that may sort of manifest every now and again, doesn't necessarily, it doesn't mean anything unless you understand what that means.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I understand that, because I was looking into electromagnetic fields myself the other day. Nowhere near to the level you guys do it, I'm telling you now. But I didn't realise that it's made up of two different energies. It's made up of two completely different things. And I found that fascinating, just on a very basic level. I was just like, oh, right, okay, so there's two things that link together, and it's one can't exist without the other. And oh, okay. And it gets into ideas that, concepts that you probably never would have come across before when you investigate or when you're trying to prove, the other side of things. It's absolutely fascinating. I mean, this data logger sounds absolutely brilliant, doesn't it, Paul?
It does, actually, and I would really like to, once it's developed and everything, I'd like to be able to get that for the rest of my team, because that does actually sound quite interesting. And again, obviously, we'd have to learn everything about it first, so when it does come out with the squiggly lines or whatever on the graph paper, we know what that all means,
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's there's more to it than
it'll
just,
come with a manual, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I do actually, I like the idea of it being connected to your mobile phones as well, so you can actually go around there and log in what happens, and then that goes to the data recorder. And I like that idea. That's a really good one.
Well, I mean, what you're saying there, Paul, actually, my next model, I'm going to actually try and move away from the wireless network. And the reason why is because obviously it emits radio frequency waves, and I find that actually that's going to be that's going to interfere with various sensors and equipment. And basically, we've got, like I'm saying, so when it comes to, say, monitoring like an electromagnetic field, just because we're detecting certain changes in the field, we don't know what them changes are, where they're coming from, what frequency they are. So once again, you need another piece of monitoring equipment to monitor that. So you need something like a spectrum analyzer to understand what frequency it is that this device is detecting. So and the more I look into it, the more expensive it becomes and the more complicated it becomes. And I just thought to myself, well, it's great having. I mean, there's pros and cons to having the wireless. Like you say, you can walk around. You're not sort of connected to a wire or so, but you are obviously emitting another sort of a contamination with regards to what you're looking to pick up, and it's weighing up what you're hoping to achieve and how you're going to achieve that, and what other sort of elements can you remove that may contaminate the data that you're trying to gather.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is, once again, this is why we do it, and this is why I do it, because I want to understand. I want to understand the bits of equipment I'm using. And like this year is the most I've ever read in my life. I've actually, I've never read many books, and I've read about 4 of them this year alone. Just purely on the paranormal. And one that I'm currently reading at the moment is a book called I think it was Paranormal Technologies, written by a guy called David Rowntree, and it's a really interesting and detailed and informative book. And once again, it was reading that book where it kind of taught me that actually, it's not just a matter of building a data logger and setting it up and taking readings. You've got to understand what the readings are, and you've got to have other test equipment there to monitor the environment, so you know what you're reading, you're getting. So, reading that book has really helped me kind of understand what I need to achieve, in my journey.
Yeah, I mean, Carl Hutchinson in the chat room, he's actually just said that to stop anything wireless or radio, you can incorporate some sort of Faraday bag. I can understand that. That'd work. Yeah. I know a team that has actually had use of a not a Faraday cage. A Tesla, and they put a Faraday cage around that, and that worked really well, actually.
Okay, brilliant. Well, this is the thing. This is, once again, there must be, lots of different examples of good practice that's going on with other teams and investigators and researchers that just aren't aren't out there in the public knowledge, and so everyone's kind of working on their own thing, but we're all kind of working towards the same goal.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm talking, going back to the case files, which I've been so passionate about, during my sort of paranormal journey so far, is because I'm able to document something, I'm able to give to other people and say, look, learn from this, move forward with this. This is what I've got you. This is what you can use now, rather than have to generate that information yourself to get to the same point. Save yourself a couple of investigations of messing around to get to this point and move forward from this point now. And that's what I'm saying. There's lots of good things that are going on that I'm not aware of. And there may be things that I'm looking to do now. Someone can go, do you know what? Don't go down that route. You're going to waste your time.
Well, that's it. I mean, we've had various discussions before about experts in the paranormal field, and we've decided a long time ago that there isn't any. We all learn as we go along, and obviously you've just proved that. Because you're looking at one specific thing in the field, but there's obviously other things that go on that other people might have had a little bit more experience at than you. So that I do tend to believe that there's experienced people in the field, not experts.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who is it you had on? Is it Paul Stevens you had on last week?
Yes, yeah, we did, yeah.
I mean, I spoke to him about a year ago, and he actually mentioned on your show a quote that I said to him when I was speaking to him on another show. It says, no one's an expert in the paranormal. We're only experts in our beliefs and opinions. And that is so true in the paranormal. And that's why, everyone has their own agenda. Everyone has their own methods of how they conduct their investigations, whether or not they're more spiritual or more scientific. At the same time, everyone's looking for that same goal. It's just about, kind of understanding what our goals are. And something, me and Ashley always talk a lot about is, cause and effect. We see a lot of the sort of traditional sort of investigation methods, more sort of detecting the effects of the paranormal phenomena rather than detecting the cause of. So me and Ash are more, rather than who's doing what, who's affecting this device. Me and Ashley look at the approach of, well, what's affecting this device. We want to understand what it is, what's the mechanics behind, this phenomena. And everyone works in a different way, and that's the side of the field that, personally I go down. So yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's a good idea always to have someone to bounce information off of, and you can brainstorm as well and come up with different ideas and theories, and then you test those theories, and that's basically how we're all going to learn.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But this is the other thing as well, is that I don't use the word that openly, but the para-unity stuff, I like. I've learned to work with people more and listen to what other people have experienced, and what they've gathered during their investigations, because we need to learn from each other rather than kind of say, look, we're doing our own thing, we're no one's touching us, we're in this area because we're the specialist at this, blah blah blah. No, we need to all come together and kind of share this information.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And there are some good teams out there that will have actually got like para-unity at the heart of it. But, equally there are teams out there that say they're para-unity, and then in the next breath it's like, oh, well, we're better than you. And then they start creating all sorts of issues for other people. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think the paranormal field is quite ready for para-unity yet.
Yeah, I completely agree. But
okay.
I mean,
sorry. Before we go any further, could you explain one term to me? You've both mentioned the Faraday cage or the Faraday bag. For our listeners, could you explain that, please? Because I basically know what it is, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
I'll let Paul explain that.
Okay, cheers for that. Basically, a Faraday cage is a cage that would conduct the electricity to go around something. That pretty much is exactly what it is. Say, for example, a car can act as a Faraday cage. If it gets struck by lightning, then the electricity will go around the car and not into you.
So does that mean then that it stops electromagnetic fields going into the area?
Do you know what? I really don't know, because I've not tested those sort of theories. So maybe Graham could answer that one.
It's like tennis.
It is, isn't it?
I'm not too sure now. I mean, you would probably. I mean, certain sort of materials can kind of stop the electromagnetic sort of radio frequencies from sort of penetrating. But equally, as to say, if you're surrounding a device in order to kind of stop, various frequencies or interfering with it, are you equally preventing it from doing its job in monitoring an environment? So it's kind of having to weigh up, what works and how it works and what you're using it for and what purpose it is. And that's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. I'm not at that stage where I'm completely confident around all of the science at the moment. I know bits and pieces, but it's very fragmented. So I have to kind of learn a bit more about it in order to kind of confidently come back and say, I know this and this and this. This is, so I can, like I'm saying, I'll go down a path and I'll say I'm going to do this, and then I read something and I go, oh, actually, I don't really actually understand this. I need to research more. So, I can't give you 100% answer. There probably are people out there that can, but I'm not at that stage yet.
Okay, Richard's actually brought up the point I was going to bring up next, which is the Kelvedon Hatch's secret nuclear bunker is built within a Faraday cage, isn't it?
Apparently so.
So wouldn't that be a good location to test the
data logger?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually used it in Kelvedon Hatch.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know whether or not I've still got the data for it. I probably have. Nothing significant occurred during that investigation, and nothing abnormal came from the data as far as I can remember. But once again, inside the hatch, I'm using the wireless router, and so it's once again emitting the signal within that environment.
Right, I see. Sorry.
You see what I mean? So
yeah,
so we've still kind of got that contamination there. This is what I'm saying. You can put some preventative measures in place, but it depends on how, once again, what circumstance you're using it, or how is it going to affect the bit of equipment that you're using, and it's understanding what you're doing really before so that's what makes it so difficult and frustrating, because it's just so much you have to learn.
Yeah,
maybe you could come up with some sort of way, like with the mobile phones and you're walking around, you could it acts as a data log itself for the information that you're putting in, and then at the end of the night you could then plug it into the data logger, and then it can come out with a final timeline. Maybe that could be something you could look into.
Well, I mean, what I have been doing is considering just having it basically, go on a sort of like a network of wires, like using like an Ethernet system or some sort, to kind of connect it to a sort of centralized laptop, and just having like a dashboard up on the screen that kind of monitors the environment. Because for me personally, it's a bit geeky, but I'm more, I'd be quite happy to kind of monitor that screen and what and what's occurring in multiple rooms, than I am to now just go out and experience a bit of paranormal phenomena. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but that's what I'm interested in. So I'm quite happy to kind of monitor the investigation from a laptop just to see what's occurring, because I could be that person that's identifying anomalies within the environment where others aren't, and they're investigating, and I can kind of then collaborate and say, hey, hang on a minute, get yourself in here because there's something happening. The environment has changed. It's all very abnormal. It's not a natural sort of occurrence. And I can kind of direct the investigation from that centralized system without contaminating the environment with all these different radio frequencies.
And then you'd be able to work out which frequency it was occurring on. Yeah.
Well, that's it. Obviously, once again, it's how deep you go into it.
Yeah.
Some of this equipment's not cheap. For a really good, effective, spectrum analyzer, you're looking in the thousands.
You need a grant. You want to join a university
exactly.
and get one of those. I read an article, just to change the subject a little bit. I read an article that a guy he'd got a grant through a university to study why people like to paranormal investigate, and
Really?
he got a grant for that. Yeah, he got a grant for that. So I'm sure that what you're doing is a little bit more, involved than why people investigate. I think I could answer that one without actually doing a survey.
Well,
she got a grant to the university for doing that. So I'm just putting it out there. Might be a way forward.
Well, actually, I work with a lady who is currently doing a PhD at uni in some sort of sociology sort of area. Don't ask me what it is because she tells me and it just goes in one ear and out the other, and I have to keep asking. But I talk to her about the paranormal stuff that I do, and she because she's interested, and she has actually said to me, look, Graham, if you want to do it, I can help you sort of look at maybe getting some sort of like grant or scholarship to get into doing some sort of form of PhD, and so I'm kind of considering taking it up because I really do want to move forward in this area. It's just it's just at the moment finding the time and to research and learn all this information, and there's so much to it. When I start sort of reading, it just baffles me, and I have to sometimes step away and let information soak in, and then sometimes I'll take in new information, then I forget the other bit, and I'm like, oh God, and it just becomes very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the angle I've decided to go down. So unfortunately,
well, no, it's
I've
people.
got to confuse myself.
But it's people like yourself who are actually pushing the field forward or trying to push the field forward, and by not just relying on the old tried and tested methods that most of us have been using now for goodness knows how many years, and it's that's why it's so important, because people like yourself who are actually doing this kind of work and trying to build something that can register changes in different frequencies and different levels that hasn't been done before, and that's
Absolutely.
what's going to push the field forward, not the same old tried and tested methods back from Victorian times.
That's it, Kerry, and the one of the reasons why I've been fortunate enough to go and do a lecture at a couple of conventions of recent, because I'm passionate about encouraging other people to step out of their comfort zones and push themselves within the field and kind of look at things from a different angle in order to progress. So with regards to in October of last year, I was fortunate enough to do a lecture at Sage Paracon, which was the first one that they run. And how I got into that was because I approached MJ, who's the lady that runs the Sage Paranormal group and also the convention. I approached her and said, look, this is what I'm quite good at doing. Would you be interested in doing like a workshop at your convention? So she discussed it with me and said, yeah, it sounds really good. And I put together like a sort of like plan of action of what I would do and stuff. So she said that I could go and do a workshop. But then a couple of weeks before the actual convention was due to start, she contacted me and said, look, I've been thinking about your case file. And I was thinking, oh, great, still doesn't want me to go and do it. And then she said, I think it's more than just going in and just doing a workshop. I want to bump you up to guest speaker so you can do a lecture on it. I was like, all right, okay. Sounds great. So, I was able to go and actually, sort of present it in front of the, the audience attending. So, and I didn't have as many of the sort of audience members that I was hoping to have when I was there. There was a lot of people I don't think were looking to go down the route of doing case files, but I grabbed the attention of a couple of people who actually grabbed me after the lecture and sat down with me for a good hour, having a chat about how I do things, and felt that they could benefit from this document that I created. So I offered to email it out to people. So I've already sort of encouraged other people to start sort of using this document in order to gather the data and evidence in order to formulate which can be shared with other people. And hence that one of the lady, her name is Karen, she put on the convention, which was Parapeak, which ran a couple of weeks ago. She was at Sage Paracon, and she actually watched the lecture, and when I spoke to her about doing the Parapeak, she said that she actually went away and used the document in her own work as well. So she wanted me to present it, to do the lecture at Parapeak, which I was very honoured to go and do. And so I went along, but unfortunately for me, most people that were there were kind of very well established in the field already, and came with much more exciting lectures. So it kind of put me off my A game really with presenting it, because I just knew that people weren't going to be interested because my audience wasn't there.
Yeah.
So it didn't go as well as I wanted, because I just knew it was going to be a wasted one. And in fact, I was thinking to myself, beforehand, should I go with another more exciting lecture? And I was going to do one around phantom vehicles, and put that together. But I decided, no, I was asked to do the case file one. I'll go and do that. But yeah, I presented it, and I've got people come up to me and actually, once again say, actually there are things on your case file that are interesting. Maybe we could use. Or one guy was he's a company, and he was saying that various team members are saying that they need to document their investigations, even the activity that they occur on their events. So he said to me, look, can I tap into your knowledge? And so I gave him my information, and actually he's messaged me tonight about it, so I'll have to get back to him on that. That's what I aim to do at these the conventions, is kind of inspire others to actually push themselves and gather the information that we so desperately need to move forward in the field. And I think I feel proud that I've been able to positively contribute to the field. By no means do I think I'm the overall expert. I don't. I just feel that I have a duty to help others, or at least promote, sort of alternative ways of doing things, in the field and where we are at the moment, because it's great going out and doing paranormal investigations and experiencing phenomena and getting the EVPs and the videos and stuff. But we know that the scientific community are not interested in EVPs and videos as such, because there's so many different variables around them that they don't want to know. But it's about finding these occurrences, or the data, or the information that we can gather, that we can say to scientists, look, this needs further research. You need to invest time in this.
Oh, I completely agree. No, I completely agree. I mean, it's always one of the most frustrating sides when you talk to various teams and that they're out there doing what they're doing, but they're not recording it in the right way. And if there is a standardized way of recording your investigation that you can enter onto a database, then it will give us a better understanding of, particularly some of the bigger locations that are investigated a lot by lots of different teams. If there's a standardized case file study and then you upload it onto the database, it helps you build up a picture rather than just relying, like you say, rather than just relying on EVPs and, video footage, because like you say, the scientific community is not really interested in that. because
No.
there are so many variables, and it's one of those personal. Even though you might have footage of what you experienced, they still see it as kind of a personal experience because they can't prove who was there, what was there. You know what I mean? There's too many things they can't prove at that point, which is why it's a face value thing.
But this is where it comes down to cause and effect, because the EVP, it may be paranormal in nature, but once again, we don't know what that occurrence is. The traditional thinking is, oh, it's the spirit of old John, but how do we know it's the spirit of old John? We're brought up to believe that ghosts and spirits are ghosts and spirits, and that's like, as soon as we experience something abnormal, that's the first thing we think about. But it's I'm not by all means I'm not discrediting the fact that ghosts and spirits exist. It's just not my belief system on the field. I believe there's a scientific explanation. That's the angle I go down. I don't expect people to follow me on that, but it's about not jumping to conclusions and kind of looking at all angles and thinking, do we know what it is? We don't. So so basically, we call the EVP the effect because it's an effect of some other mechanics, whether that be ghost or spirit or some form of scientific explanation or occurrence that is beyond our understanding at the moment.
See, I think that if even if the investigators do eventually discover what ghosts and spirits are, if they come out with a logical explanation, there's always going to be a group of people that won't believe that, and they'll be like, well, no, it's still ghosts and still spirits, so it'll always be discussed.
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah. But yeah, so I think that's kind of where I'm at now at the moment. I've just kind of explained my journey and where it's brought me to, and what I've tried to encourage others to do. So hopefully the audience tonight has taken something away from this interview.
Yeah. Well, I certainly have. I don't know about the audience, but I certainly have taken something away from this. And I find your work absolutely fascinating, and it's fantastic that you've had an impact on the field, and carry on doing what you're doing.
Well, I will. Thank you.
It's all good. As we are coming up to the end of the show, do you want to just go through some of the chat room stuff, Kerry?
Honestly, it's Carl Hutchinson and Ashley Nib are just like tossing ideas backwards and forwards between them, which is brilliant. They've both said you did a fantastic talk at the Paracon and the Parapeak, so they thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's good. And Carl always says the whole aspect of a paranormal convention is brilliant, as you can learn different ideas and thoughts without the fear of being judged. And Richard has said there is too much invested for people to move on and consider that this phenomenon may not be spirits of the dead, which is a point. However, the whole point is whether it's scientific or it's spirits of the dead, then it would be nice to actually scientifically say it's spirits of the dead. That's kind of where we would like to get to.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what we got coming up in the week with some of the other shows then, Kerry?
Well, tomorrow you've got Penny on our Haunted History show. I think she's doing Newsham Jail or something like that. She's always a fascinating show with her haunted histories. And she's got another little interview lined up. On Thursday, because Kerry Ann is taking a break, I think we're doing a KTPF rerun show on Thursday. Okay. Then on Friday, I'm quite excited about this one. We've got Ghost Searchers Ireland coming on to tell us all about what they're doing. And they've just had a big paranormal adventure with Brian J. Cano. And they're also one of the very, very few teams that has done the Haunted 3 in Ireland. So I'm looking really forward to...
That should be good.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking to them guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very full week.
Absolutely. And next week on this show, the Paranormal Concept, we've got, what's the guy's name? Is it Brian Holloway? Holloway. Brian Holloway. That's right, yep. And we're going to be talking about his latest phone app that he's
Well, he does lots of different apps created for the paranormal usage. So it'll be interesting to see his take on paranormal apps, won't it?
It will. I'm interested in that myself. You
Yes.
know what my views are on them.
I do, but it would be very interesting to talk to somebody who develops them. He's also been looking into the kinetic side of things as well. You know, where they, the Xbox where you see stickmen and stuff like that. Yeah. He's been looking into that, and he's taken one on an investigation recently, and because he came under some criticism that it was a doorway was showing up as a figure or something like that, and he proved it. He proved that it wasn't now. Oh, but it'll be really interesting to talk to him anyway.
It will be. I'm looking forward to that. I'll tell him my experience with the Connect.
Thank you so much, Graham, for joining us. I'm sure we could have gone on a lot longer tonight with you. So we'll have to get you back on again at some point, I'm sure.
That'd be great. Thank you for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
No problem. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Look forward to talking to you again.
No, sure, definitely. Thank you.
No worries. And I want to thank Kerry for joining me as well tonight. Thank you.
You're always welcome.
Good. Next week, same time, same place then.
Well, that's how I roll these days, Paul, with you on a Tuesday.
Makes it a good show though, doesn't it?
I think so.
And I just want to thank everybody in the chat room for joining in. It's been interesting reading what you some of your comments and stuff, and I apologise now, but we have no jingles to play out, so I'm just going to simply say goodbye and see you all again next week. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.
Oh dear.